Welcome to the Great Talent, Great Business Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit greattalentpodcast.com. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Okay, here we are, episode 10 of season 1 of the Great Talent, Great Business podcast. I'm really excited to be doing this special episode. What I'm going to do on this is give a summary and highlights of the previous 9 episodes from season 1 of the Great Talent, Great Business podcast, along with just a little bit of my commentary, and I think you'll find this very useful. So season 1, episode 1 featured John Shepard. And John talked about something that not a lot of people are talking about, which is what he calls the generationality of the workplace. And one of the big takeaways I got is you think about all of the attention that has been given to the younger generations of the workforce, Gen Z and millennials. And John really put a different perspective on this whole thing about having up to 5 different generations in the workforce right now. And I have a quote here from John. He said, the thing that I found when he was studying this is that all generations are generationally judgmental about the other generations. They all dislike the other generations for various reasons. And it got him thinking that you should be looking for the best in everybody, not necessarily the worst. And this has really made a big impact, not only on me, but I've mentioned this when speaking with other business owners and when I do my presentations at like the EOS conference. And it really gets people thinking a little bit like, okay, there are different generations in the workforce. We should acknowledge their differences, not necessarily assume that they are bad differences. Jumping over to episode 2, we had Elisa Gelbard, and she talked about employee brand. I talk about employer brand, which is what people say about your company as a place to work when you're not in the room. Employee brand is a little bit different. And my big takeaway from this was something that I had actually subtly thought about many times over the years as I go and I look at a company's website, particularly if it's a company we're thinking of doing business with, and I don't see much on the owners of the business, or there's nothing there that really gives me insight. And when I'm doing business with a smaller mid-sized company, I want to know a little bit about them. And having that information about the owners of a business up on a website and having them active, I would say in social media, goes a really long way. It certainly worked very well for Work Better Now between myself and my partner, Andrew Cohen. We're out there doing social. I'm out there speaking at events. We want people to know who's really behind the company. And it was a very powerful message from Elisa. Moving over to episode 3, Chris Beer, there was so much that she talked about. And I asked her a question, something, if I remember correctly, something to the effect of, when people call you and they have a problem, is that the real problem? And she said, most of the time it's not, because all the problems really come down to people and processes. And even those processes are really people issues. So the issues that you're facing in your business, think about them from a people perspective for sure. Episode 4, we had Jade Green. Jade was absolutely fantastic. And she talked about how company culture is caught and it's not taught. And it's so important. We're going to talk about this in a few other episodes as well. And the fewer distractions, the less ambiguity in business, the more clarity there is, the more productive your people will be. We're going to come across this actually very soon. Again, in another episode, there's a great quote here. This is something you can put up on your wall from Jade. She said, happiness is the greatest hack for performance and profitability. If that's not a drop the mic moment, I don't know what is. This episode is brought to you by Work Better Now, your trusted partner for getting high-performing talent from Latin America. Our clients tell us that partnering with Work Better Now has transformed their businesses by providing the proactive, reliable, and skilled professionals that they need to thrive. Ready to build your dream team? Visit workbetternow.com to schedule your consultation today. As a special thank you to listeners of the Great Talent, Great Business podcast, we're offering $150 off your first 3 months. Just mention Great Talent during your consult. Join the businesses building their dream teams and take the next step in transforming yours today. Episode 5 with Bob Borchard. The key takeaway from Bob was every organization has unused human capacity, which has a negative impact on performance, productivity, profitability. And this is, like everything is, a leadership issue. And somewhat similar to what Jade said, he talks about creating cultures of clarity. And that's essentially to unlocking unused capability. And that's being more aware about yourself, being very clear about expectations and bi-directional feedback. I myself, for many years, was a drive-by delegator. And people nod their head. That doesn't mean that they understand. Be clear. Be very clear in all of your communication. One of the things we're about to do at Work Better Now is for every role in the company, we're going to state on a document what success looks like in that role. I think that just takes a lot of confusion out of the mix. Next, episode 6, Mark Taylor, legendary Vistage chair. And Mark talked about, among other things, how small and mid-sized businesses don't have formal leadership development programs. So you put people in a manager role, yet there's no training for them. They know how to do the thing they do, but managing is different. Managing is not doing the thing, it's managing people. And he talked about how peer groups can go a long way with that. And he reminded us that the number one reason why people leave companies is their manager. And time again, when you peel the onion back a little bit, it's because the managers just haven't had any manager training. So we got to put a big effort into developing your managers and your leaders. Episode 6, we had one of the world's leading experts in employee retention, Chasen Hecht. And I really am going to go with Chasen's quote here. There was so much he talked about, along with all the episodes. Please go back and check it out. Chasen said, "You got to know with clarity and confidence the answers to these 3 questions. Everything else is guessing. So number 1, why do people join? Why do people stay? And when I say people, I mean employees. And why do employees quit? If somebody asked you those questions now, could you answer them? I'm not sure I could at Work Better Now. I have some ideas, but you can actually collect data on this, and it tells you a lot of what you want to know, and it can certainly help in your retention efforts. Episode 8, we had Michael Deutsch, and Michael really touched upon something that I have felt all these years, but he really identified it really well, which is small and mid-sized businesses most of them have a broken hiring process. And that's an understatement. If you think about it, your number one asset, despite what your accountant might say, because it's not on your balance sheet, is your people. And if it all starts with the hiring process, and most companies are winging it, or they have outdated processes and procedures, there are best practices. Michael gets into some of them. One of the things I'll share from a lot of the talks, shorten the cycle time for candidates. Think about your candidates like they're potential customers for your business. Good employees are actually harder to come by than customers are these days. And if you think about them shopping for your business, being an employee candidate, and they're shopping around for the right employer where they want to spend their 40, 50 hours a week, think about that whole process. How can you make it more appealing? How can you condense the cycle? A lot of other tips that Michael shared. Episode 9, we had the legendary Jack Daly. And Jack has, as he's done many times before, talked about how important it is to build a strong company culture by intentional design. And he talks more specifically about recognition systems, communication systems, personal and professional development. We've heard that before, and empowering your people to create an environment where people want to work. Think about it this way. You want people saying, like, not I have to go to work, but I get to work at this place. When people are saying that, you have created, as Jack said, a competitive and sustainable advantage in your business. So I want to thank all of the guests for contributing all of these really valuable insights. Thank you, of course, to the audience and to all of our followers. I've gotten so much terrific feedback from everybody. And of course, I want to thank my colleagues at Work Better Now. Work Better Now is sponsoring the podcast, and the marketing team at Work Better Now is also producing the podcast. So thanks to all of you, and we'll see you soon for season 2. Thanks for listening. The Great Talent, Great Business podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at Great Talent, Great Business, or visit greattalentpodcast.com.